topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Dr. Great name. Contact them today at 346-474-4623. They handle both adults and children. And actually, they will be on with us in the second half hour of our show. Listen, for anybody who has an interest in commercial real estate, and I know the city of Houston is full of it, we have got such a great show for you today. Let me welcome you right off the bat, attorney John Moody. Good afternoon, John.
Hi, Steve. How are you doing?
We're doing good. We're doing good. You know, your show is so easy to do. And I remember last time, John, that it's like before I knew it, the show was over with. And we even got a phone call after the show from a viewer saying, you need to make that show longer. So listen, you know what? If it was an hour, John, they want an hour and a half. You know, okay. you can't please everybody, but let's we're still pretty new to the TV audience. So tell everybody about your firm.
Yeah, well, we're a small real estate firm here in Houston, practicing, really focused on commercial real estate law. Myself and two of the other attorneys are board certified in commercial real estate. And then all the attorneys that work with me have been in the commercial real estate field for 10, 15 plus years. And kind of what I saw, I guess the elevator pitch is, buying, selling, leasing, and financing commercial real estate, and kind of everything that goes along with that is what we do.
John, here in Florida, if you are board certified, let me see how close it is, Florida and Texas. If you're board certified here in Florida, you can call yourself an expert. Is that true?
That's true here in Texas as well. It's one of the few things that the state bar will allow you to claim expertise is if you take the test and pass the board certification. And if you do specialize, it's kind of a smart, or it's kind of the prudent thing to do, because you're kind of doing all the work and all the requirements anyway. But it's something that I think it's only like less than 5% of the attorneys in Texas are board certified.
Well, it means you did a lot of extra work. But what I really love about your practice, John, is, first of all, besides that you're board certified and I can call you an expert.
Yeah.
But this is mainly all you do is commercial real estate.
Yeah. I thought about doing some other things. My family's been in the real estate business for generations, and I thought about doing trial work and other different things, but real estate's kind of what I know and kind of, I guess, in my blood, so to speak. And so I enjoy it, and I enjoy the people involved in the business, and I like doing real estate deals.
John, I'm going to tell you this. I have found we're in 9 cities, including Dallas too.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that when a firm concentrates mainly in one area and they don't have a shingle hanging up saying that they do bankruptcy and criminal law and personal injury law and family law, I have always found that no matter what state, the one who concentrates in that area is usually a much better attorney, and they know their area law.
Well, that's certainly something we try to focus on, what we know, and try to be excellent at what we're good at, and not stray too far afield. Some law firms are big, and they try to cover everything under the sun, and we've decided, for better or worse, that this is what we want to do. This is what we enjoy, and we want to be the best, the best in our field and best in class, and really do the best service for our clients in this space.
Well, if for those of you who are watching on TV, you can see John's phone number. We're scrolling across the board. If you're listening on radio, John, give everybody your number.
Okay. Our main number is 713-773-5544. And my email is jmoody@moodylawgroup.com.
Okay. Well, we've got so many questions for you, John, and I'm not going to put you on the spot. I know you're going to be able to answer them all fine. Let's go to our first question. What are the types of commercial properties that you typically deal in?
Yeah, well, I would tell you it's kind of all over the board. I guess there's different categories. One is, I guess, what I consider income producing properties that have tenants paying rent and leases. So that can be anything from an apartment project where you have residential tenants paying rent. It can be a medical building, a medical office building, a regular office building, retail, self-storage, kind of fall in that category. And then, I guess another simple answer would be it's anywhere where it's not a personal residence. So, we have clients that are buying land in land funds, clients buying, facilities that they are going to, own or occupy for their businesses. And so I think, I guess the broadest sense is it's anywhere you're not intending to be a residence or a second home.
John, what is, because I've just gotten 3 texts back to back, and they basically all want to know the same thing. What do you see the future of commercial real estate in the Houston area?
The future. Well, let me shake my my
your crystal ball.
My crystal ball here. I would tell you it's mixed, and I think it largely depends on the asset category. I would tell you, the office market is under some stress. The way the world has kind of changed since we went through COVID. We've kind of come out, and I don't think anyone has a great answer on what is the office world going to look like in the future. I think this hybrid model where people work some and commute less, and work from home some and commute less. They're not going in the office every day, I think is probably here to stay. You're seeing some trends. If you talk to the office guys, they're going to tell you it's kind of a flight to quality. So large businesses are leasing less space, but they're leasing it in very nice new buildings with all the amenities and restaurants and stuff that's walkable. So it's a place where when the employees do come and their clients come, it's a place that people want to come to, right? And it's got all the bells and whistles on it, and so you're seeing that, and so you're seeing a lot of stress in kind of the older office buildings. Retail, there was a big explosion in retail after COVID when tenants were coming back and businesses were roaring back and interest rates were low. There was a lot of activity on the retail side. I think the interest rate hikes of late this is not just unique to retail, but they've put a lot of pressure on the ability to buy retail assets and other assets, because it's hard to get that yield right now with interest rates rising. But I think overall, right, if you had to say, like, look, am I going to bet on Houston, Texas in the long term? I think the answer is yes. If you look at all demographic trends for the United States and Texas. I mean, Texas and Houston in particular is projected to continue growing like crazy. And so when you have that many people in one area, right, people have to, buy their groceries. People have to have a place to work. People have to have self-storage to put their stuff in. There's all those things. There's got to be apartments. There's got to be restaurants. There's got to be, doctors and doctors' offices. So all that, I think, plays out over the long term for a healthy real estate market. I think we're going to have some pressure here. I think we're feeling it right now with these interest rates hikes and the inflation and everything else that's going on, kind of in a macroeconomic sense. But we've been through these cycles before, and I think currently we're we're under a little stress, but I think we'll work through it.
John, this is a really nice text we just got. His name is Manny, and Manny said, "I found your show by mistake, and I enjoyed every minute of it, and I get to listen to you again. Can you do a show one week on land disputes? Do you handle that area, John?"
Well, I typically don't do I don't do trial work, and I don't go to court. Occasionally, people get in disputes over deals or a disagreement, and I have been through probably 15 mediations over the years where I sat down with real estate folks and we're able to work out a resolution outside of court. But yeah, I mean, I can kind of give some pointers on how best to resolve it. My position is always, let's try to find a way to work it out as opposed to going to court, because once you get into court, I mean, and I've got a lot of friends that are trial lawyers, and I'm not saying that that's something that isn't necessary often, but from a real estate perspective, often there's a path to there's a solution just waiting, to get worked out. And some people can get emotional and upset over a deal that didn't work out, but I always try to help people find a path to resolution, just because it's so expensive and it costs so much money. And once you get into court, sometimes the resolution and the outcome is really out of your control. If you leave it to a jury and a judge, you don't really know where it's going to go. And so I try to help people get a resolution when I can.
Why am I not surprised by your answer? We're talking about buying commercial real estate. We're here with attorney John Moody, and curious, is there still money coming in from overseas investors?
Yeah, I would say last year there was a lot of that. Particularly, like I said, when interest rates were low, there was a lot of money and a lot of U.S. and non-U.S. sourced funds coming in and buying up income producing properties, trying to chase some yield. And I'd say the market's kind of cooled in the last 30 or 90 days. This quarter has been a lot slower than it was last year as the interest rates have kicked up, because you can get yield right now putting money in the bank and getting bonds and other things. So people are looking elsewhere. When interest rates were, when you could put your money in the bank and you weren't getting any interest on your money, people were really putting it into real estate to try to get some yield off of income producing properties. And you're just not seeing as much with interest rates as high as they've gotten. And it's changed so quickly. You're just not seeing as much activity.
John, where does the investment process, where does it start when you're buying commercial property?
Well, I would say, I guess, like a lot of these answers, it's different for each person or each group. But I'll kind of tell you generally, right? I have some clients that are, big time investors and properties, and they've got, either brokers, real estate brokers that work for them that are out, chasing the types of deals that they want to acquire, or they have third party brokers that kind of know generally what they're looking for. I've got users, right, that are, in the fitness business or in the retail business that are out looking, or restaurant business that are out, looking for locations. And that process is, it's a lot of homework. They're looking at maps, and they're looking at demographics, they're looking at traffic counts, they're putting, a lot of homework and science into looking for the right location. And so, but all that said, whatever your motivations are to buying property, I always tell people, like, start with the goal in mind. What is the result that you're trying to achieve, and go hire smart people, hire people that are in that field. And I guess to start a deal, right? We kind of talked about this on our last episode.
Yes.
Is like, start with a letter of intent, with just the basic outline, price, the amount of property, the timing of the deal. And I would say, depending on where a lot of first-time investors and folks kind of shoot themselves in the foot, so to speak, is they don't give themselves enough time. Okay, and you need time to, and we'll talk about, I want to kind of get into due diligence here in a little bit, but and so ask me a little bit about, homework and that kind of stuff on buying properties. But, what the heck was I going to say? Just about starting, making sure you have enough time on your deal, because you need to do your homework and make sure that, if you're getting financing, you got to make sure the bank has enough time. You got to make sure that the consultants that are doing your reports have enough time. I can't tell you how many people are like, I want to have a 10-day inspection period and a 10-day close. I'm like, well, that kind of works with a house, but when you're buying a shopping center, that's really hard, because it's hard to get, you're going to need a survey, you're going to need a environmental report, you're going to need a property inspection. All this stuff has to happen. And if you don't have enough time, you're going to end up kind of buying having to close blind, or have money at risk. And it's better to be in a position where you know what you're getting.
We just got a text. It's from New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And we do get over there. They want to know, is the city or state going to do anything about high-rise properties so that the tragedy that happened in South Florida doesn't happen in Houston?
Well, I mean, I don't know anything, specific. I know.
I think here's what I'm getting out of this. I know here in Florida, John, that there's a new law going into effect that if a building is over 3 stories, that they have to have engineers come in, architects come in to, I guess, make sure that the property is safe. Does Texas have anything like that?
Well, I mean,
that's going to get expensive.
Yeah, well, the city does have, and I would tell you most cities have, building codes and building inspectors, and have, some, requirements. You gotta, like, if you're doing a high-rise building, you gotta have a, engineer design it, and structural and all that stuff has to get approved and permitted by the city. And so, there are some processes in place through the permitting and inspection requirements at the city.
What should an investor be looking at when considering buying commercial property?
Yeah, well, it's there's a lot that goes into it. I would say generally, and we talked about homework and due diligence a second ago. I kind of think of 3 areas, right? One is kind of the financial and accounting side of things, like, what does the rent roll look like? What are the tenant reconciliations? What does the expense side look like on the property, on the commercial property? What are some of the history in terms of taxes and kind of all the cost side? And then, kind of looking at comparables and trying to figure out, am I getting a market deal on this site? Then there's kind of the physical condition. Those are things like looking at the environmental getting an environmental report. Often you want to get a property condition report, kind of a physical condition, and that can look at the roof, the structure, oftentimes the mechanical systems of the building. If there's an elevator involved, kind of making sure all that stuff is in a condition that's expected. And then there's kind of the legal side, right? There's the looking at title, looking at survey, looking at all the easements, looking at all the leases and legal documents that kind of support that. Because often, on a commercial deal, often the reason you're buying it is because of the cash flow. You're looking.
Yes.
I'm paying a price based on the cash coming off this deal, and the cash coming off the deal is you got to look at what the balance sheet's telling you, but you also got to look at like what the lease is telling you. What the documents say that the tenants are obligated to pay in rent, and how all that works. And so, depending on the complicated factor or the size and factors involved in the property. We've helped groups buy large shopping centers with 85, 90 tenants in it. That's over 50 acres of land, and those can be pretty complicated. And we have groups that just buy a McDonald's ground lease. It's just one building, one lease, and it's a little bit simpler to do. A lot less moving parts, but so there's a lot that goes into it depending on the size and the complexity of the deal.
Well, I got to tell you, the show goes by way too fast.
Yeah.
John, give everybody your phone number and
Sure.
your email.
Okay. Phone again, our main number is 713-773-5544, and my email is jmoody@moodylawgroup.com, and then our website is moodylawgroup.com, and you can see all kinds of stuff about us and what we do.
Well, John will be back with us again next month. If you've got some ideas you'd like John to talk about, please send them to us. You can go right to the number we've been giving you out for the text. Today's show has been brought to you by Autumn Oak Speech, Voice, Hearing, and Balance. And you can contact them at 346-474-4623. Tell them you heard about it on the Ask the Expert show. John, we will see you again next month with more.
Great. Yeah, looking forward to it, Steve.
You're the best, bro.
All righty. See ya.
That's John Moody's, a local attorney that works on commercial real estate. And gosh, if you're looking at doing anything in commercial real estate, pick up the phone and call John. Don't try to do this on your own. He's been doing this for a long time, concentrating his practice on that. Our second half of the show today, I get so excited about doing this show. Because our expert who does the show is so good at what she does, and she actually helps so many people that I just feel so blessed to have her. She'll be hopping on with us in just a minute. And there she is, speaking of just a minute. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing good. I was just telling everybody we are so blessed to have you on this show, and got a lot of calls. We've been giving out your number to a lot of people wondering. You also do children, also.
Yes, I do, and we need to make sure that we give the right phone number. It's 281-816-3067. We switched it up, so I'm sorry about that. But yes,
that's not a problem. Let's give it out again, and
Okay.
We'll get that changed on the scroll.
Okay, it's 281-816-3067. And sorry about
that.
my
Is okay.
dogs.
See, Michelle, you can do no wrong with us. You've got carte blanche. You're the title sponsor of our show, and and I love hearing this. We get a lot of people now, they're going, I found your show by accident, and I love your show. And our numbers went way up last month. So
Oh, good. That's excellent. I mean,
Yes, I know.
great.
And
Yeah.
listen, I know this goes by really fast, and I'm going to try to squeeze Michelle in maybe next week if I can twist her arm to come back on again next week.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm happy to do so. I'm sure I can definitely squeeze that into my schedule. So,
Okay.
mhm.
Well, we're going to talk about the effects of hearing loss on the brain. And I think I know what this means because sometimes, Michelle, I'll be watching a program, I can hear the volume. It's
Right.
not that I can't hear it, it's I can't understand it sometimes.
Yes, exactly. So that's the secondary effect of hearing loss. It's the clarity of our speech, just trying to interpret what we hear. And so that does happen, and people and unfortunately people are not that aware of it. So people will end up just speaking louder to you or trying to adjust the volume, and it doesn't do much. It's the clarity, the understanding that gets affected.
Well, Michelle, I got to tell you, I was thinking about you this week, and my fiance said to me, "You need a hearing aid."
Oh,
And
yeah.
you don't want to hear that. Okay, that's the
No.
last thing. So, is it hard getting people to admit when they need a hearing aid?
Yes. I mean, in the American culture, about 20 years ago, we were waiting 10 years. There's a wait period of 10 years before we'd help ourselves. And now it's 7. So we've taken 3 years off of it. But yeah, people, there's just that stigma towards hearing aids. I think we associate it, and well, for like my generation and maybe the generation, actually probably the generation before me, they associate more with old age,
Yes.
like aging. And people don't, we don't like to age. The greatest fear of us aging is losing our independence.
Yeah, because they made a big mistake on my driver's license. They're trying to show that I'm 60 something when I'm only in my 30s, and I guess I'll have to get that
I know
corrected, right?
it doesn't go by, yeah, it's not how we feel, it's how our chronologically, right? I know, and it's so important. I know it's like a part of people have this connection with aging, but when you treat your hearing loss, it really helps you to maintain the skills that we do have, and we want to keep them sharp as possible, because it is so linked to the brain and to the memory and to problem solving and language, and that means like word finding issues. So you know it helps maintain what we do have without progressing.
Michelle, we're hearing more and more about dementia now.
Yes.
And is there any kind of research being done regarding the correlation between hearing loss and dementia?
Yes, absolutely. So, it started, the oldest piece that we're able to find was and actually my colleague did it, not me, was from the 1960s. They started to realize, like, when somebody has a hearing loss and it goes untreated, it will start to impede and not only decline all by itself, because hearing loss is a progressive degenerative disorder, but it'll also start to impact our cognition, meaning like our language, our memory, our problem solving, all those executive functions that we need for daily living. So they first started seeing that, in a research article from the 60s came out. And then it was quiet. And then it came out again in the 80s. And then in 2020, that's when like it hit the Lancet, which is a really very popular journal, and it was the most treatable risk factor for dementia was hearing loss. Number one, it was hearing loss. Treat your hearing loss, and you'll be less at risk for dementia. So I don't know why it took so long to make it, I don't know, pop into the public or into talking about in doctor's office. Hopefully you are. It's still relatively new, but it's not.
This is probably a strange question, but there's a lot of different practices that intertwine. For example, ear, nose, and throat doctor. I'm sure you have audiologists in your practice. Does that make it confusing on where somebody should go to start when they feel like they have a hearing loss problem?
Right. So, ear, nose, and throat doctors, they're there to treat infection and disease. And that's where they go to medical school. They do the surgeries, prescribe prescriptions. And sometimes hearing loss can be associated with a disease process, a middle ear infections, things like that. Absolutely. So, the ENTs are there to help diagnose and treat that. Now, the hearing loss that is related to age, the hearing loss that is not treated by any kind of surgery or medicine, that's where audiologists come in. So the ENTs do their medical school and residency. The audiologists, their whole study is on balance and hearing loss and how to treat it, diagnosis and treat it. So the audiologists are there to help treat it. So a lot of times if you go into an ENT's office, there'll be an audiologist to help with the treatment of hearing, diagnosis and treatment of that. So yeah, there is a little bit of confusion, but the audiologist is the specialist in hearing. The ENT is the specialist for disease and infection of those areas.
Well, Michelle's head's going to get so big when I say this. I got to tell you, I would think that when somebody is aging, uh, the hearing is starting to go. That's something pretty heavy to admit that. So when you go into a clinic like Michelle's, you want the professional there to really understand what you're going through, because it could be traumatizing. You know, you got to have a hearing aid and you're losing your hearing. And I got to tell you, Michelle's been with us almost 2 years. She is the most caring person I think I've ever met.
Oh, I thank you.
And well, and I, this show, a lot of people who are finding us for the first time, this is not a commercial. We're actually here to educate you.
Right.
And it's just people, I got to tell you, I don't do this very often, but if you feel like you're starting to, you know, aren't hearing things the way you used to, or maybe your mom or your dad is not hearing the way they used to. First of all, and Michelle just said it, don't let it go. You got to get help. And second of all, you want somebody who really, really understands and cares. And I think that's what's so great about you, Michelle.
Well, thank you. I mean, I definitely am very active in my profession, and I definitely try to, dive deeper and find out a lot of the why and what is available and what treatments are available and what we can do. So that really helps me out. But I mean, it's just it. I mean, I've been around since childhood. I mean, hearing loss has been around me all my life. So it's it's just important to me. So, and I know from just being a parent, I have a son with special needs. My son is here today and living because of the specialists that I worked with and still work with to this day at Texas Children's Hospital. And it wasn't, and if it wasn't for them just educating me and helping me along, we probably wouldn't be as far. So, I mean, it's just, we as providers, I mean, I would say most of us go in it because we just truly want to help. And being a recipient myself, it's like you just want to pay it forward and help people to live the best life possible. And yes, I mean, it is not nobody really likes to wear a hearing aid, but I'll tell you this, when we do fit our patients, majority, I want to say our rates are in the 90%, like 95%. Like people don't return it. Like it is beneficial. Like it is enough benefit to the quality of life, to being a, to lifting reversing the dementia, if dementia started to kind of creep in, because it does, reversing the dementia, reversing the speech clarity, making that better, treating these symptoms of hearing loss, reducing the tinnitus, treating all those symptoms of hearing loss, that makes the whole, you at one point, you just don't care because you just want to hear and feel better.
I was thinking of something funny when you were talking. I know you've got a very understanding husband. And what do you do when you tell him, you ask him to do something and he said he didn't hear you? You
Right.
can't get away with it.
Right. I know they can't. Honestly, what we did, my husband's 42. We have him, he has hearing aids now.
Okay.
Yeah. And so and it has made a world of difference for him.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. And and let me tell you, my husband, it took a little time. But it only took him maybe a few months, and he started to realize, okay, I'm missing out on this. And my husband is this big burly guy and just a sweet old man, but he started wearing hearing aids. And the main reason and what really got him to just at least try it was, he was in HVAC for 23 years. So he was surrounded by noise. So he's had this horrible tinnitus in his ears for probably about 10 years now, 10, 15 years, but it just got bad now. It got where it was a little disturbing. So he tried hearing aids, and it's been very nice. It's kind of nice listening to him because we'll go to a movie and he'll turn his hearing aids off and then listen and then turn them back on and then listen. And he's the way he described it to me, it's like surround sound. It's eye opening, it's mind opening, it's just once you get past that, let's just try it. Let's just see how it goes. And once you get to that point of it's appropriately fitted to you, prescribed to your hearing loss. And that's the key, prescribed to your hearing loss. We're talking about the prescription level, not the OTCs.
Michelle, I wish you could see my phone blowing up. We have got so many people wanting to know about those hearing aids that you see on TV that you buy, at discount stores.
Right. Yeah.
What's the difference in those and the hearing aids that you sell?
Right. So the hearing aids, so those are over-the-counter aids, and they've been around for decades. And those hearing aids are truly amplifiers. They're an amplifier. So the better the amplifier, it's kind of like Bose speakers and those types. The better the speaker is, the more expensive your it will be because of the technology behind it. So it's an amplifier, meaning that if we're at a party and we have people talking around us, every single sound from, the voices that you hear to the doors opening and closing, everything will be equally amplified. So it's very hard to pull the speech that you want to hear and then disregard and dampen, because you can't, because everything's amplified, all coming to you at one time. The prescribed hearing aids is per your hearing loss. And then they're also sound processors. They help you filter out the noises at the same time hearing the speech that you want to hear. Now, sometimes there's overlap because right in the background, some of that noise is speech, but the technology allows you to receive the signal and help improve your speech understanding, because really we hear at the level of the brain. So that is something that changes and gets better over time. Your hearing loss, because it's at the level of the ear, those cells are damaged or dead, and I can't fix that. We just cannot. But after but we do want to maintain. We don't want it to continue to progress. And it does, but at least want to try to slow down that progression.
Okay. Yeah. It's when I do the show with you, Michelle, I'm thinking what would I want to ask? I'm sitting in the car. Because we got this great professional on with us right now. We're talking about speech and hearing. Um, Sometimes I notice that somebody will say something to me, but there's a lot of noise in the background. It could be the wind, the
Right.
TV turned up, and I'll go, "What did you say? Is it? Am I not hearing them, or is it from the noise, the background?"
Yeah. So, hearing in background noise or listening in noise is a hard condition that we all have to endure. But my gauge, this is how I gauge things. If you know, like your spouse or your friend has normal hearing and they're able to hear everything without having a whole lot of repetitions, I mean, it's normal to ask what periodically, not normal to continue to ask it, right? So, use that person that's with you as a gauge. And if they can hear you and understand or hear the conversation and keep up with it, and you are not able to because of all the noises, more than likely it's not the noise, it's hearing loss.
Okay. Tell people we're mostly been talking about hearing aids, but you do other things also. Because
Right.
if you look at, we talk about the title every week. We give you're our title sponsor, and we don't just say hearing loss and hearing aids. You also do speech too, therapy.
Right. Yeah. So we do outpatient speech for adults and children. So for the adults, it's for people that had strokes or have some kind of disease process where it's affecting their speech, their comprehension, their cognition, or even their swallowing. So that's what we work on at the clinic. And we have various certifications like LSVT, which is a certification for allowed teaching people with Parkinson's or people that are losing their voice. They tend to get lower with the progression of that disease in regards to vocal loudness, teaching them to help maintain a voice that's audible to people, and swallowing, stuff like that. So, and then with children, we see the typical, fluency and speech disorders there. And we treat the hearing. And then the other thing that I work on is that I specialize in is balance and vestibular disorders.
Mm.
So, if you're having some dizziness and it's happening in bouts, and it's unexplained, it may be a certain type of vertigo. So
Ah,
yes. So there's and the most common types of vertigo are the benign proximal positional vertigo, which means like the crystals in the ears are floating around and they're dislodged and they shouldn't be floating around, like unless they shouldn't be floating around. And it'll cause severe dizziness, like the room is spinning and you get nauseous, lightheaded, and it lasts like seconds. So that's a common type. Another common type is Meniere's disease, and that's a type of vertigo that is the same kind of thing where like the room's spinning, you're very nauseous. It's episodic, so it comes in attacks, but at the same time, like your ears are roaring, like the sound in your ears, and your hearing loss starts to go down. So you'll notice changes in that. And then finally, there's the migraine variant. So these are the most common I see. The migraine variant, it's just these, and they typically, the symptoms last not seconds or minutes, it's usually like days. It's a long time with the vertigo symptoms. So yeah, so that's what we
we always learn so much from you, Michelle, and we are so blessed to have you. And and sometimes maybe it's just a good idea for parents or adults to make an appointment to have a hearing test and
right.
see where they're at.
Yeah. So for adults, if you haven't had a hearing test, not hearing loss, hearing test, it's a good idea when you turn 50. When you turn 50, it's time to check your ears and time to check your ears, kind of thing. It's that time. For children, definitely, if there's some issues with speech and language disorders, you definitely want to rule out hearing loss, because hearing loss is really hard to, especially if it's in one ear. it's very hard to decipher. Our kids are very savvy with figuring things out, and appearing to hear when they're not. So it's easy to miss it in kids, and they don't know any different. That's just how it's been.
Oh, you're bringing up some memories. I don't even think you were born yet, let alone had a clinic. But my son had a speech impediment, and his was with numbers, the way they would flow off his tongue, and it was so amazing. We'd go, you're saying three instead of three.
Mm.
Oh no, I'm not. I'm saying twee. I said, no.
Right.
So do they not hear it like we do?
Right. I mean, they hear it. They absolutely hear it like we do. It's just they just cannot. They're not processing it. They're not processing it as incorrect. And they're if they would, they could. Let's put it that way. And they have these patterns for whatever reason that cause them to have these speech disorders. And so when it's for a lot of my kids, like if it's a phonological disorder, so meaning like it's a pattern that they're showing in their language. Like, for example, they don't produce final consonants. So car is just ka, and it's that consistent pattern. It's not a particular letter. It's a particular place or something that's happening within the word. When we see things like that, and even just keep this in mind, if you have a child with like a speech and language impairment, I would definitely, by the time that child is in first grade and in between, make sure that the child really keep an eye on dyslexia, because a lot of times, not all of them, but a majority of our kids can end up with like they're at higher risk for learning disabilities, and that doesn't come out, and we don't really diagnose that until later, because by the time they're in second grade, we all tend to have like those tendencies, that the soft signs of dyslexia where, we accidentally write the B as a D and vice versa. Well, all of those should be gone between first and second grade. Like in that summer, it all should be gone and we shouldn't see any of that stuff anymore, and that's pretty typical development. But if it's still, at the end of first grade, if that's still really happening and you don't see just a lessening of that, occurrence of just putting letters in a reverse place or whatever, that's when I would start seeking through the school system, or if not through the school system, through like a neuropsych, start seeking some neuropsych evaluations to make sure that we don't have an underlying disorder that actually just started as a speech disorder years ago.
Well, as always, your show goes by so fast, and I'm going to be talking to you this weekend, and twist your arm to come back on again with us next week. We love having you on the show. Give everybody your phone number who are listening on radio, because we've been running it on the TV portion.
Okay, great. It's 281-816-3067. And if you have any questions for me or just like to talk to us, just give us a call.
Michelle, thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. We will be back next week with more Ask the Experts. Today's show is brought to you by Autumn Oak. Autumn Oak. Somebody, we just want to say Oaks. Autumn Oak.
I know. There's so many people, just one tree.
Yeah. But thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, and thank you for whoever's listening out there. Have a great
We love
week.
you.
Yeah, take care. Love you too. Bye.
Bye-bye. See y'all next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.